Welcome back to Lincoln's Creations and Rentals. I'm Phil, your host. Today we're going to do something a little bit differently. We're going to break open the box of this Dewalt Planer. So thanks for joining me here. And I'm really glad you guys are here because we're going to pull this out, get it set up, and do a couple test runs. I've got an old piece of rough board here that came out of, I don't know, probably something I took apart or something I had left over. We're going to run this through a couple of times after we get it up and set up. So I'm going to grab my handy dandy box cutter and we're going to get this opened up. Now I highly recommend having someone here to help you with this. It is quite large, quite heavy. I'm hoping now that I've got some of the feeder tables out, which have a good bit of weight to them, that's a little lighter, but the box says it's 105 pounds. Now I lugged and pulled this downstairs, down into the workshop by myself, but I definitely would not recommend it. So now that we've got it out, grab the instruction book, take a look at it for a couple minutes, open it up as much as I can and check for any defects real quick. We're gonna get it set it up and get it running. But so far, out of the box, doesn't look like there's anything missing, any parts falling off. But I have heard that when people are running their first boards through, sometimes things are a little out of alignment or that it gets broken in shipping. So I'm gonna do my best to get it up here on this table and give it a quick little look. So now that it's out of the box and I've had a chance to look at it real quick, I'm gonna go through some of the simple things of setting it up. Right here, you've actually got your hex key that you're going to need, which is basically what all the bolts here are for. And you've got this handy dandy tool. You're also gonna note there's a couple of magnets onto the end of that. I'm gonna get into later why that's important. But first thing you want to do is take off the bolt right here, which is what's ultimately going to hold your handle in. So just line it up appropriately with the flat spot on the cylinder there and screw the bolt back in. It's nice and tight. Now we can raise and lower the depth of the planer. Next thing you're going to want to do, at least I want to do, is they do give you a dust port adapter to bring it down to the appropriate size for my shop vac. So they do want you to be clear and careful. I'm going to turn this around here. There is a release pin right here that'll set right in there, and they really want to make sure that nothing is in the way when you've got dust and particles coming out of here. So we're gonna snap that into place right there, and we've got that on there. Next thing I want to go over is taking off the top. There's 4 bolts up here. I've already got a couple of them unscrewed. I'm gonna grab the last one here. You can take the top right off with those 4 bolts. And I'm going to show you the inside here. So I did a little reading of the instructions and found out that these 3 red wing nuts are what you're going to remove this, what's marked DeWalt right here. So this is the dust shroud. And when you remove that, it gives you access to the blades under there for if and when you need to change your blades. coming back to this tool, those magnets on the end of there are so that after you loosen up the 8 bolts that hold on each one of the blades, you use the magnet to pull that blade out, just because it's going to be sharp and you don't want to hurt yourself. So that's the basics of the inside. I'll take these off right now real quick. Maybe not super quick. There's one. Two. And here's the third. And this pulls up, and then you just slide it over to the left there, whoop, and then it comes out. And as you can see, these are your blades there, and there are 8 bolts holding each one in, and it says to use a scrap piece of wood to move it around so that you can see the 8 bolts and get to them with the key. And then you push down over here on this lock lever to hold the blades into place so you can unscrew those 8 bolts. So I'm going to get this unit back together now. So one of the things I wanted to show before moving on is this material removal gauge here. So what they recommend is feeding your piece of wood in about 3 inches, and then you can crank down on the planer, and as you can see, that needle goes up, showing you how much material of that board is going to be removed with each pass. So that's definitely nice. In addition to that, they have 2 settings here for removing, 2 speeds. So speed 1 is your finishing speed, and it says here 179 cuts per inch, meaning it's feeding through the planer slower. Setting 2 is feeding through faster, more for your dimensional cuts, and it says it makes 96 cuts per inch. So just so you know, they highly recommend when you're doing the harder woods to feed it through slower. So it'd be using setting 1. So you'd want it over here on the 1, and using that setting for those hardwoods. So this is good to know if I'm just trying to, you know, cut down on some 2x4s and cleaning them up and stuff like that, or whether or not I'm truly trying to make a nice finished edge that's going to take little sanding and whatnot. I'm going to clean up the floor here in my shop a little, make some room, get this put down on the ground, get the feeder tables attached, and we are going to run this rough board through and see how it works. Just see if we can clean it up a little bit, get an idea, the feel for the planer, and go from there. So like I said, going to grab it, toss them on the floor where it's easier for me to work, and move some stuff out of the way, and I'll be right back and we'll see how it works. One of the things I did read in the instructions is they do say not to attach it to most shop vacs because they're not fast enough. There is a fan ejection system here for the discharge, and the shop vac may not be able to keep up with it. So I may have to play around with whether or not I actually use my shop vac, since I don't have a very large dust collection system otherwise. So we'll play around with it, see what happens. I don't necessarily want all that dust floating around everywhere. But if that means I need to use this more outside or something like that, maybe that'll be the case. So I'll be right back in a second. So I am interested in seeing how this will perform with the shop vac. So I do have that hooked up. I'm gonna do a quick test of the power. That appears good. I'm going to double check my depth gauge here. Want to take off just a little. All right, I've got that set. So it's going to take off about a 1/16. We're going to get this started, get the shop vac on, and feed it through. So we've got that done. And it's nice and flat. Both sides, I don't see any significant sniping or knife marks or anything like that. I do think most people have issues with that when they're doing much longer boards. But that looked like it did it pretty good. So I'm really looking forward to getting to use this in the future. Overall, I generally prefer buying good, high quality dimensional lumber and exactly what I need, or something that's easy to cut down on a table saw or with a miter saw. But I do think this will come in handy if I get something that's definitely not quite that clean, or if I decide to do pallets and use pallet wood for something. I definitely, personally, I don't necessarily like some of the roughness of the cheap pallet wood, but I think being able to run it through a planer, clean it up a little bit, get a nice surface that I can put a nice high quality stain on and seal up real well, might be something I'm interested in doing. So I think overall, right now, so far it's a great product. I hope to put a whole bunch of board feet through it and come back to you guys later on and let you guys know how it went. But really super easy to set up. Doesn't look like changing the blades is going to be too hard. You just got to be careful not to cut yourself, and of course make sure it's unplugged and make sure you use a scrap piece of wood to move the blades into position so that you can unscrew them. This set actually came with those 2 feeder tables, as you saw, and it also came with an extra set of blades. And I definitely think that's going to come in handy, not having to go out and buy my next set of blades when I need it. But I picked this up on Amazon for about $500. I have seen it historically at Home Depot for about $650, and directly from like Rockler and Woodcraft for about the $650, $660 range. There are constantly coupons at Woodcraft, Rockler, and every now and then you'll catch a nice good coupon at Home Depot, or a nice sale at Home Depot for this sort of stuff. So I'll have a link in the description of this specific model. I believe it's a 735, so that you guys can check it out at Home Depot. But definitely, for the amount of money you're spending, it's nice having the extra feeder tables. I will probably eventually build some sort of rolling table that I can mount this to, just so I don't necessarily have to be running board feet through on the floor here. But then again, if I'm running long boards through, it might be easier than setting up roller boards and stuff like that to catch the board. So we'll see. I'm hoping I can sort of stick to running smaller boards through until I get really good with it. But later on, I'll probably want to run some bigger boards through just to make sure they're consistent and make sure they turn out real perfect in some of my projects. So thanks for joining me here in the unboxing and going through some of the features here. They do have some automatic stop features and things like that. So if you're interested, definitely pull up in the manual and give a look-see. But there are ways you can set this up so it's just ready to keep going, and then just click down another 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch and put the next board through. They do recommend flipping one side then the other for consistency, but most of those recommendations are based on the fact that you have fairly square, fairly flat, no cupping, no bowing, no nothing to begin with. I don't own a joiner here in my shop. I probably won't end up getting one. It's not something I would probably use regularly. I do think this is going to be a fun tool to have around the shop for projects. So guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have one. Let me know if you've had any issues with yours, so I can definitely keep looking for things. But considering that went through so cleanly, right now I'm going to consider it a successful delivery and unboxing and testing. So let me know what you guys think. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you guys next time.